Hi guys, let's see how to deploy your Node.js application to a DigitalOcean server. This is a detailed step-by-step guide, so we will start from the empty droplet, that is the name for the server in DigitalOcean world, and we will install all the dependencies, configure users, install Node.js, install PM2 and Yarn, and see how to deploy and manage your application on that server. We'll also configure a domain name so that you don't have to type IP address each time when you want to access your application. You don't have to be a Linux guru in order to go through this guide, but I do assume that you have some prior knowledge, so you should be able to connect to a remote host with SSH and to issue some basic Linux commands. Before we jump in and start smashing the keyboard, I want to answer this very typical question. Why and when would you choose DigitalOcean over the other alternatives to host your Node.js application? And most frequently mentioned alternatives are AWS, Windows Azure, and Heroku. So here we are looking at three totally different kinds of services. AWS and Windows Azure are cloud services, so they not only provide you a Linux hosting where you can deploy your Node.js application, they also provide you a huge variety of additional services like load balancing, like databases that are capable of storing terabytes of data, like automatic scaling group, etc. and so on. So if you're building a large project and you're controlling more than one machine or more than two machines, then this kind of services will probably be the best for you. However, if you're looking into a small project and you're doing a small startup, probably DigitalOcean will be more cost effective and much easier to start with. And if you compare the control panel of DigitalOcean versus the control panel of AWS and Azure, they look super cool, but they look like a cockpit of a spaceship, and just starting with them is significantly harder than starting with DigitalOcean. And the third option is Heroku. So why DigitalOcean over Heroku? That's very simple. Heroku gives you just Node.js hosting. So if you need something extra like MongoDB, you need to look at additional services. If you need Redis, you need to look at the additional services. If you need any custom component running on your server, well, you're screwed, because what you get is Node.js service only. Everything else should be hosted elsewhere. With DigitalOcean, you have the freedom to build exactly the Linux image that you want to, and have exactly the services and tools and utilities installed that you will need for your service, for your application. Let's quickly look at the application that we will be deploying. So this application is called Easy.io, and you can find it on my GitHub page. I'll paste the link in the video description. Here's the application in action. Let me just start it from my local host, npm start, and let's open it in port 8080. So that's how it will look like at the end when we deploy it, but instead of localhost, it will be using our server. So this is the end result, by the way. The application deployed to DigitalOcean server on port 8080, and everything is working. So keep watching this video to see how to get from here, application running locally, to here. Now let's have your DigitalOcean server up and running. And if you don't yet have a DigitalOcean account, just create one, it's free, and use the link that I inserted below in the description for this video and go to DigitalOcean. So why not going straight to DigitalOcean? Well, because with this link you will get free credits. You will have $10 from DigitalOcean to spend on your servers, and $10 means 2 months of running the minimal instance, which is not a bad start at all. To be totally clear, there is obviously a reference code in this link, so once you register and once you start paying for your own servers, I will get a little bit of credit for DigitalOcean to pay for my own servers. I will not have any money at all, just to make it clear, not a single buck for referring more people. I will just have credits to pay for my own droplets, and yeah, it's always nice to have some. Okay, so register and create an account. Once you finish the registration process, your screen will look something like this, except that you will not have any droplets because this block will be empty for you. And what we will start is we will create a new droplet. So click this huge green button. Once the next screen loads, yep, you will have a selection of distribution. So in this video, I'll be setting up CentOS. And by the way, you can have one-click application. There is one-click app option, and you can choose a distribution that is pre-configured to run something, right? So you can have a distro with LAMP, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, or mean stack with MongoDB, right? Or PHP-MyAdmin or Node.js, right? So you can have Node.js deployed with one click at all. But here, what we will do, we will configure the server server exactly as we want it. So we'll start from the bare distro, which will be CentOS. Next thing to choose is the size, right? And size means how much money you will pay monthly for this droplet. The most of the droplets that I have is $10 a month, which is enough for me. $5 a month will work pretty much okay as well. There will be no problems running Node.js on $5 a month droplet. But for this video, I'll just create $10 a month to have a little bit better CPU, a little bit more memory, and a little bit more space. Okay, so the next thing to do, you scroll down and you choose the location. And obviously the location you choose closest to where you are or closest to where the people that will use your servers are, right? I'm right now near Hong Kong, so I'll choose Singapore as my location because this will give me the smallest ping. For you, if you're in US, choose East Coast or West Coast or London or Frankfurt if you're in Europe. And yeah, just choose the server that is closest to you. Next, I will not choose any additional services here. And what I will do is I will create a new SSH key. I don't want to have any passwords on my root user. So what I will use instead to authenticate on my server is an SSH key, right? So click here, new SSH key, and it will ask for an SSH key and the name for it, right? So I assume that you know where your SSH key is, right? Find it. On macOS, it will be in .ssh folder, ID, rsa.pub. I need just the public part, and I will do pbcopy to have this key inside of my buffer, right? Okay, so I copied the contents of this file. Actually, I think I just copied something else, but okay, now the contents of this file is definitely in my buffer. So I can go here, paste it here, and give it a name. So I'll say Yuri Mac and add an SSH key. Now with SSH key in place, and make sure that this tick box is selected, this SSH key will be automatically deployed to your server and you will be able to log in as root using this key, which will be quite easy. So I'll call this instance nano, and in a moment you will see why. And yeah, all you have to do now is to click create and wait a couple of seconds till the droplet is started. Okay, so I'll pause this video till the droplet is created, and then we'll see how to check the access to a droplet. Looks like our droplet is ready. So now let's copy the IP address to a buffer, and then let's try to connect to this droplet, right? I'm under Mac, so I have an SSH client straight in my command line. If you're under Windows and you're using PuTTY, make sure that you're using the same SSH key that you were providing during the first step when we first created the droplet. Next, I'm connecting as root user. I haven't created any additional users yet, and this key is configured specifically for root. So now I paste, I accidentally copied the word root into a buffer instead of the address. Okay, so now I paste the address and I hit enter. Now my SSH agent is asking if I do want to trust this domain, and yeah, I do want to trust this domain. So now I'm in my Linux host. Awesome, my host is up and running, and I can do everything that I want on this host now since I'm root. Obviously, a bit later in this video, I will show you how to create a non-root user, because it's quite a bad idea to run all your operation as root. But now let's start from doing the very first thing that you usually do when you start with the new Linux server. You do the update. So you type yum. -y says yum that you don't want to be asked if you want to update each individual package, right? And you say update, right? What this will do, it will download the updates for all the existing packages that require updating. If you're non-root user for some reason, since I'm root, I do not need to type sudo. If you're non-root, you will type sudo here before yum. Okay, so let's hit enter. And yeah, this process will maybe take a few seconds. I hope not too much. So this whole process took about 3 minutes, and now I have all the packages updated. So now it's a good time to install the packages that I will need before I install Node.js. I will need two types of things. Firstly, I'll type yum -y, and then I'll type group install. Which group I will install make sure that is properly written, is development tools. Why I need this group? This group contains the additional utilities and tools for building the native Node.js dependencies. It's not specifically made for Node.js, but what is required for Node.js is there, and this is the easiest way to install them all together. And again, we'll have to wait a little bit for the additional packages to be installed. Now, two more things that I like to have on each of my Linux hosts are Vim. So I'll type yum -y again, install Vim. And the second one is nettools. So nettools is the package that contains all those little commands to figure out what is your IP address, what are the open ports, etc. and so on. So they are quite useful. Awesome. So at this point, we have everything ready for Node.js installation.